My name is Sarah, I'm 38, and my husband ran off with my stepsister's boyfriend. When he returned with their baby, I stayed calm. At the wedding, I revealed everything, including the paternity tests for both children. Before I tell you about him returning with their baby, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I still remember the day as if it were yesterday. The air in the grand ballroom was thick with the scent of lilies and old money, a suffocating mix that clung to my silk dress. I stood there, a quiet observer among the glittering guests, watching Cecily Carlton, my husband's much younger stepsister, glide down the aisle. She was beaming, oblivious. Or so I hoped. My heart hammered, a drumbeat of anticipation and a strange, cold calm. Everyone else saw a beautiful wedding. I saw a stage, perfectly set for a truth bomb. How did a woman like me, a history professor specializing in vigilantism, get here? And what was I about to do? My journey to that ballroom began years ago, a slow, painful unraveling. I met Mark Carlton when I was his teaching assistant in college. He was charming, rebellious, and utterly captivating. We had this instant, undeniable chemistry. He came from old Southern money, the kind of family that had portraits painted and summered in Nantucket. The Carltons, especially his father Rufus and mother Eleanor, saw me as completely unsuitable. I was a scholarship kid, a bookworm, building my academic career from the ground up. They made it clear I wasn't good enough. They said I lacked the pedigree, the connections. It was always about what I wasn't, never about what I was. Mark, in a fleeting moment of defiance, eloped with me. His family cut him off completely. I thought it was romantic, a grand gesture of love, a declaration that our love was stronger than their antiquated rules. Looking back, it was just the first sign of his immaturity, his inability to truly stand on his own 2 feet, his tendency to run from conflict rather than face it head-on. I spent years building our life, largely on my own. I poured my soul into my studies, earned my PhD, and became a history professor. I raised our daughter, Lily, who was from a previous relationship of mine, mostly by myself. Mark was there, physically, but emotionally, he was often absent, a perpetual man-child. He'd compete with Lily for attention, not parent her. He'd insert himself into her friend groups, trying to be the cool, edgy dad, which mostly just embarrassed her. I remember Lily, barely a teenager, complaining, "Mom, he acts more like my roommate than my dad." I'd brush it off, tell myself it was just Mark being Mark, but a knot of resentment tightened in my stomach with each passing year. My sacrifices, my quiet strength, my dedication to our family and my career, they were always overlooked, always taken for granted. It was a constant battle to feel seen, to feel valued, not just by Mark, but by his family who still, even after years, treated me as an outsider, an unworthy addition to their illustrious lineage. The word inheritance always seemed to hang in the air when they spoke, a reminder of what I supposedly wasn't entitled to. The storm began subtly, a shift in the wind I barely noticed at first. Mark started dressing differently. He bought a velour tracksuit, bright pink, with juicy emblazoned across the rear. He was 40, for heaven's sake. It was absurd, but I chalked it up to a midlife crisis. He started spending more time out, vague about his whereabouts, always with a new, youthful energy that felt alien to me. Then Lily started dating Brendan Hilton, a smooth-talking law student. He was 24, handsome, and seemed to sweep Lily off her feet. Something about him rubbed me the wrong way, a slickness behind his charming smile, but Lily was happy, and I wanted that for her. Mark, oddly, seemed pleased about the relationship, almost like he was living vicariously through Lily's youthful romance. He'd ask her endless questions about Brendan, far too interested for a father figure. It was unsettling, like watching a bad play unfold, but I couldn't quite put my finger on the script. Then came the first punch. Brendan broke up with Lily. Just like that. No explanation, no warning. Lily was devastated. She locked herself in her room, cried for days. I tried to comfort her, my heart aching for my girl. I brought her tea, sat by her bed, listened to her heartbroken sobs. Mark, meanwhile, seemed oddly pleased. He'd hum around the house, a spring in his step, almost a smirk playing on his lips. It was chilling, almost as if he'd won some secret game. "Kids break up, Sarah. It's life," he'd say, waving a dismissive hand. His indifference was a slap in the face, a clear sign that his own selfish desires always trumped the pain of his family. The true bombshell dropped a few weeks later. Lily started feeling sick. Morning sickness. My blood ran cold. She was pregnant. With Brandon's baby. My sweet, naive Lily, barely 19, facing this alone. I was floored. The world tilted on its axis. How could this happen? How could she be so blindsided? We needed to tell Mark. We needed to figure this out, together. But before we could even gather our thoughts, before we could confront him with this life-altering news, Mark disappeared. Just vanished. No note, no call, no trace. One day he was there, humming his stupid tunes, the next, he was gone. It felt like a punch to the gut, a betrayal so profound it stole my breath. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. The aftermath was a blur of flashing lights and whispered accusations. Mark's car was found abandoned in the university parking garage. The police, with their grim faces and probing questions, descended on our home. They treated me like a criminal, searched every room, impounded my car. I felt like a character in one of my own history books, accused without evidence, judged by a society eager to find a villain. My neighbors, the ones who used to wave and smile, now watched from behind their curtains, their eyes filled with suspicion. The local newspaper, with its sensational headlines, plastered my name across the front page, "Professor a person of interest in husband's disappearance." The humiliation was public, brutal, and relentless. Every trip to the grocery store felt like walking a gauntlet of judging eyes. My colleagues, people I'd worked alongside for years, suddenly found reasons to avoid me. Their smiles were strained, their conversations clipped. Henry Vance, the department chair, a man I'd always respected, called me into his office. He sat across from me, his face a mask of polite concern that barely hid his judgment. "Sarah," he began, his voice dripping with false sympathy, "given the circumstances, it might be best if you took a leave of absence. For the students, you understand. It's a distraction." He was trying to remove me from teaching, to sweep me under the rug, to protect the university's image at my expense. I felt a hot flash crawl up my neck, a surge of righteous anger. "Henry," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands, "I am a tenured professor. I have done nothing wrong. My private life, however messy, does not impact my ability to teach. I will not be taking a leave. I will not be silenced." I stood my ground, my eyes locked with his. He backed down, but the damage to my reputation was done. I knew then that my fight wasn't just personal, it was also professional. My very promotion was at stake. Then came the call from Rufus Carlton, Mark's father. His voice, usually so controlled, was laced with venom. "What have you done to my son, Sarah?" he spat. "I always knew you weren't good enough for him. You were always a gold digger, trying to get your hands on our family's fortune. Now you've proven it." He accused me of harming Mark, of being behind his disappearance. Their disdain for me, always simmering beneath the surface, now boiled over. They demanded I sign over any claims to Mark's assets, threatening to drag my name through every possible legal mud pit. I hung up, my hand shaking, but not from fear. It was from a simmering rage. They were using this as an excuse to finally cut me out completely, to erase me from their lives, to deny me any inheritance or recognition for the years I'd given. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, an anonymous letter arrived. The handwriting was Mark's. It was brief, cold. "I'm alive. I'm with someone I love. Don't look for me. Lily," and I took it to the police. It cleared my name, officially, but the whispers didn't stop. The damage was done. My life, as I knew it, was shattered. But in that moment, a strange calm settled over me. The pain was still there, a dull ache, but it was overshadowed by a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to crumble. I was going to fight back. I filed for divorce on grounds of desertion. And as I started the legal process, a new thought began to form: I would find out the truth, no matter what it took. My research on vigilantism wasn't just academic anymore. It was my blueprint. I knew I needed a lawyer, a good one, to navigate the mess Mark had left behind. Life, however, had its own plans for healing. While I navigated the treacherous waters of divorce and public scrutiny, Lily continued her pregnancy. She was brave, stronger than I ever imagined. She faced her own heartbreak with a quiet dignity that made me incredibly proud. I accompanied her to childbirth classes, a silent pillar of support. That's where I met Bridget Murphy. She was the instructor, a kind, empathetic nurse with a gentle smile and eyes that held a quiet sadness. We talked after classes, shared stories. Bridget had her own tragic past. She'd lost her husband in Afghanistan and miscarried their baby shortly after. We found solace in each other's company, a shared understanding of loss and resilience. Our relationship blossomed, slowly, naturally, bringing a stability and warmth into my chaotic life that I hadn't realized I was missing. She was a breath of fresh air, a quiet strength that grounded me. Lily gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She named her Bridget Valentine Manning, a tribute to the woman who had brought so much light into our lives. We were a new family unit, unconventional, yes, but filled with love and support. Bridget Murphy became an anchor, a steady presence in the storm. We were finally finding our footing, building a new normal, a peaceful haven away from the chaos Mark had left behind. We talked about Lily's college fund, how to ensure her future and the baby's, a stark contrast to Mark's financial irresponsibility. Then, he showed up. Unannounced. At our door. With a baby in his arms. My heart lurched. It was Mark, looking thinner, older, but still with that same bewildered expression. He stood there, holding a tiny bundle, a stranger's baby. He stumbled through a convoluted story, his words tumbling out in a rush of desperation. He'd run away with Brandon to New York. They'd been together, living some kind of reckless, hedonistic life. Then, Brandon, true to form, had abandoned him, leaving him stranded with their baby. My mind reeled. Brandon, the same Brandon who had impregnated my daughter, was now the father of Mark's baby. The audacity, the sheer, mind-boggling betrayal. It was a twisted knot of deceit, a funeral for any lingering hope I had for Mark. Lily, despite her anger, her own raw wounds from Brandon, looked at the baby. Her half-sibling. A tiny, innocent life caught in this web of deceit. "He can stay," she said, her voice surprisingly calm, her eyes filled with a complicated mix of pain and compassion. "For the baby. It's not the baby's fault." I maintained my emotional distance from Mark, but I supported Lily's decision. The tension in the household was palpable. Mark tried to insert himself back into our lives, making clumsy attempts at conversation, trying to act like the good guy. He'd offer to help with chores, make awkward small talk. But the baby, this tiny, unexpected presence, did create an odd, unexpected bond between Lily and Mark. They were both parents to Brendan's children, a strange, twisted connection that bound them together, whether they liked it or not. While Mark tried to navigate his new reality, I secretly began my investigation. My academic work on vigilantism, once a theoretical interest, now felt intensely personal. I hired a private investigator, a quiet woman named Maria who understood discretion and had a knack for digging up dirt. I needed answers, concrete proof. Maria quickly discovered Brandon's whereabouts. He was in Savannah, Georgia, engaged to Cecily Carlton, Mark's stepsister. The pieces clicked into place, forming a chilling picture of calculated betrayal. Brandon, the manipulative player, had moved from Lily to Mark and then to Cecily, leveraging his charm for social and financial gain. The thought of revenge, cold and precise, began to consume me. It wasn't about anger anymore, it was about surgical precision, about exposing the truth in a way that couldn't be denied. I started ordering things online: discreet cameras, voice recorders, even a small, untraceable GPS tracker. I spent hours researching legal precedents, custody battles, and the most effective ways to present irrefutable evidence. Lily and Bridget noticed my late nights, the packages arriving. They confronted me, their faces etched with concern. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "You're not going to do anything rash, are you?" "This isn't you." Bridget, ever the calm one, put a hand on my arm. "We're worried about you, Sarah. Don't let them drag you down to their level." I looked at them, my two anchors, and saw the fear in their eyes. "No," I promised, my voice steady. "I won't do anything rash. This isn't about anger. It's about justice. It's about truth." I appeared to agree, but deep down, the plan was already forming. My knowledge of history, of how justice was sometimes taken into one's own hands, was guiding me. Mark, surprisingly, discovered my investigation. He found some of the packages, saw the tracking devices. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and regret. "Sarah, don't," he pleaded, his voice hoarse. "It's not worth it. He's not worth it. You'll only hurt yourself." He revealed his own regrets, the shame of being abandoned, the realization of his own foolishness, the emptiness of his choices. He was broken, a shadow of the man he once was. But it was too late. My mind was made up. The time for rashness was over. This was about precision, about exposing the truth, not just for me, but for Lily, for our children, and for every woman who had ever been dismissed and betrayed. The day of the wedding arrived. I flew to Savannah, checked into a discreet hotel near the venue. I wore a simple, elegant silk dress, blending in with the other guests as I walked into the grand ceremony. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and old money, just as I'd imagined. Rufus and Eleanor Carlton, Mark's parents, were there, looking smug and self-satisfied, basking in the glow of what they believed was a perfect day. They greeted guests with practiced smiles, completely unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. I felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet power simmering beneath my composed exterior. During the reception, as the champagne flowed and the band played a soft jazz tune, I waited for my moment. I watched Brandon and Cecily dance, their faces alight with what looked like genuine happiness. It was a twisted tableau, a mockery of everything I believed in. Then, as the toasts began, I saw my opening. I stood up, a small, almost imperceptible movement. A hush fell over the room. Rufus Carlton, from the head table, recognized me. His face contorted in a mixture of shock and fury. "Sarah! What are you doing here?" "Get out," he thundered, his voice echoing through the ballroom. But I was ready. I held up a hand, a calm, almost serene smile on my face. "Please, Mr. Carlton," I said, my voice clear and steady, amplified by the microphone I'd somehow acquired. "I just wanted to offer a toast to family. To truth. And to new beginnings." I began. Many of you know Brandon Hilton as the charming, brilliant young man marrying Cecily today. I paused, letting the words hang in the air, allowing the initial confusion to settle into curiosity. What some of you may not know is that Brandon has a rather complicated history with family. You see, before he met Cecily, he was in a serious relationship with my daughter, Lily. A ripple went through the crowd. Whispers erupted. Cecily's eyes widened, then filled with tears, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. Eleanor Carlton gasped, clutching her chest, her face turning ashen. And before that, I continued, my voice gaining strength, cutting through the rising murmur, he also had a rather intimate relationship with my husband, Mark Carlton. The room erupted in gasps and outright shouts. Mark, who was sitting at a table near the back, looked utterly devastated, his face pale, his eyes fixed on me in disbelief and shame. I held up 2 sealed envelopes, crisp and official. You see, Brandon is a very prolific young man. So prolific, in fact, that he's the father of 2 children. One with my daughter, Lily. I opened the first envelope, pulling out a document. The words paternity test results were clearly visible. And one with Mark. I opened the second. I have here the paternity test results for both children. Confirmed. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Cecily's choked sob. She collapsed in tears, her beautiful white dress crumpled around her, her dreams shattered. Eleanor Carleton let out a dramatic cry and fainted, her husband Rufus rushing to her side, his face purple with rage, his carefully cultivated image of respectability crumbling. Brandon, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury, his eyes burning with hatred, lunged at me. "You bitch," he screamed, his voice raw with impotent rage, but security, who I had discreetly alerted beforehand, quickly restrained him, dragging him away from the scene. I looked directly at Brandon, my eyes cold and unwavering. "And since you're so good at creating families, Brandon," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos, clear and strong, "I've brought you some legal papers." I held up a thick stack of documents, each one a testament to his deceit. "These are paternity suits for both children. You'll be paying child support for both Lily's daughter and Mark's son. I collected DNA samples from both babies for proof, just to make sure there was no denying the truth." I placed the papers on the table nearest to him, then turned and walked out, my head held high, leaving the wedding to descend into utter pandemonium. The silence I had maintained for so long had finally exploded into the loudest truth. The satisfaction was immense, a deep, bone-deep sense of justice served. I returned home to Lily and Bridget, who were waiting anxiously, their faces a mixture of fear and anticipation. They hugged me tightly, their relief palpable. "You did it, Mom," Lily whispered, tears in her eyes. "You really did it. I knew you would." Mark, humbled and ashamed, moved out of our house, finding his own place nearby to co-parent his child. He was still a work in progress, but the public humiliation had stripped away his arrogance, leaving behind a glimmer of genuine remorse. He even offered to contribute to the children's college fund, a small but significant step towards responsibility. Slowly, the dust settled. The legal proceedings against Brandon were swift and decisive. His promising legal career, once so bright, was in ruins. He was forced to pay child support for both children, a financial burden that would haunt him for years. Justice, in its own way, was served. The Carletons, after the initial shock and outrage, finally reached out. Rufus and Eleanor, stripped of their pride, their social standing momentarily shaken, wanted to know their grandchildren. I negotiated the terms for their involvement, protecting Lily's interests fiercely, ensuring they understood that their past behavior would not be tolerated. It was a delicate dance, but I held all the cards. At the university, the whispers turned to apologies. Henry Vance, the department chair, publicly praised my resilience and sharp intellect. My reputation, once tarnished, was not just restored but elevated. I became a symbol of strength and integrity, a testament to the power of truth. My relationship with Bridget deepened, blossoming into a profound love. We talked about marriage, about building a future together, a future free from the shadows of the past, a future built on mutual respect and unwavering support. A few years have passed since that day. Lily is thriving, a strong, independent young mother, pursuing her own dreams with renewed vigor. Her daughter, little Bridget, is a bright, curious child, full of life and laughter. Mark's son, also named Brandon, a name we all silently agreed to keep for the boy's sake, though it still stung, is a sweet, happy boy, loved by all. We are an unconventional family, yes, but we are a family nonetheless. My research on vigilantism has taken a new turn. I now focus on the psychological and social aspects of recovery from betrayal, using my own story as a powerful case study. I also volunteer at a local women's shelter, sharing my experiences, helping other women find their voice and reclaim their dignity. My salary has increased, and I've even received a prestigious promotion to a full professorship, a recognition of my academic contributions and my personal resilience. Sometimes, I sit in my garden, watching Lily and Bridget Murphy play with the children. The sun filters through the leaves, dappling the grass with light. I think about the journey, from the gut-wrenching pain of betrayal to this profound sense of peace and joy. I learned that justice isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming your life, building healthy relationships, and finding inner peace. It's about realizing that you are stronger, more resilient, and more valuable than anyone ever gave you credit for. I didn't just survive, I thrived. And I found my own kind of happily ever after, built on truth, love, and unwavering strength. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know many of you out there have faced similar betrayals, felt that sting of being overlooked, undervalued, or outright wronged. What was your biggest takeaway from my experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more stories of resilience and reclaiming your power.